Police in South Florida are hoping that you can help solve a 50-year-old cold case. It's the murder of a 15-year-old girl who disappeared in 1972. Her remains were found 2 years later, but not identified until last week when a company that handles genealogy DNA offered to help investigators on this case. Now that they know who she was, they're trying to determine who killed her. Susan Poole was 15 when she disappeared in 1972. She lived at this trailer park, Pan America Estates on Andrews Boulevard in Broward County, but had been staying with a friend.
She disappeared right before Christmas. Nobody knew where she went. Her clothes, pocketbook were still at an apartment that she was staying.
Police now know it was her remains found 2 years later, deep in the mangrove trees off A1A on Singer Island, tied to a tree.
It appeared to be tied up in the mangroves with wire to a tree. She was a skeletal remains, totally nothing left of her except the bones.
The location and evidence making police think Poole could be a victim of Gerard Schaefer, a former cop and sheriff deputy turned serial killer. When Poole disappeared, Schaefer was a local police officer, and just months earlier, a young girl reported a narrow escape after he offered her and her friends a ride to the beach.
He got arrested for kidnapping 2 girls, taking him out on A1A, and tying him up in the mangroves.
In 1973, Schaefer was convicted for killing a 16-year-old named Georgia Jessup and a 17-year-old Susan Place. When police searched Schaefer's home, they reportedly found jewelry and items believed to be souvenirs from various unknown victims. Schaefer was killed in prison in 1995 while serving a life sentence. Investigators believe he could have killed dozens of other women in Florida and across the country, leaving a trail of remains that may never be found. And William Springer is one of the detectives who helped identify Susan's remains, and he is joining us tonight. Detective, we appreciate you coming on. Let's start with Gerard Schaefer. Do you believe that he is the killer, Susan's killer, or are you working under the impression that it may be anyone?
At this point, it all appears to be Gerard Schaefer, where the body was located, the fact that she's from Broward County. He was active back at the time, but at the same time, you can't rule out the possibility that somebody else could be involved or somebody else could have done it. So you can't just close the door saying it was him. At this point in the investigation, I'm trying to find her friends from back in 1972. I'm looking for 4 people that I know were friends with her because I've talked to some of her friends in the family. And I'm looking for a Greg Anderson, a Keith Schaefer, a Julie Hunt, and a Michelle Williamson. And if I could talk to these people and anybody else that may have known Susan back in 1972, I could move forward with the investigation and hope to get the family some additional closure in the case as to who possibly did it.
Why these 4 people, Detective? How do you hope that they can help you?
Well, if they were friends with her back then, which I was told by family members and some other friends that these were all friends of Susan's back then, and they would have known her activities, what she was doing, who she was seeing, possibly where she was going, anything that they can tell me what her activities were back in 72.
50 years is a long time. How difficult is it to track these people down?
I found some. That's very difficult. I mean, I think I found Keith Schaefer, and I think he used to live in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm just working on a few other addresses. Michelle Williamson is possibly, she used to be a manager at a Kmart in Palatka, Florida. I'm still working on that. But the other 2, I haven't had any luck because they got basically common names.
Talk to me for a moment about Gerard Schaefer and what more you can tell me about his criminal past, and if there is a key piece of evidence you're looking for to make a connection between him and Susan's death.
Well, at this point, I'm working with a Broward County Sheriff's detective who actually was around back in 72, and he believes that all the evidence that they recovered from Gerard Schaefer's house back then is in evidence in Broward County, and he's looking for that now. And as soon as I get that, we can go through there. And from what I understand, he had some hair and teeth, and maybe do some DNA on that just to see if possibly it was Susan, or if some of the family members can identify some of the jewelry.
This is such a chilling case, Detective, as you read through the details of it, and you've lived and breathed it, and you know much more about it. What troubles you the most about Susan's death and the death of these other women in that area as well?
Well, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, she's 15 years old, and she never got to experience life, having children, getting married, everything that we do and take granted for it, she never got to do. And, the sheriff's office is proactive in identifying our unidentified, and we're working more to do more genealogy on our unidentified. We have at least 99% of our unidentified. We have DNA that we have in the national database. So we're very proactive in trying to get these people identified and back home where they belong.
Detective, I know Susan's mother is in her 90s. She's got other surviving family members. What have they shared with you about these most recent findings identifying Susan?
Well, they were very happy to know they're not happy to know what happened, but at least they got some type of closure as to knowing that she just didn't run off and abandon them, that she was a victim of a violent crime.
Well, the wheels of justice don't always turn quickly, but relentless police work, dedication, and also the incredible advancements of DNA technology help even 50-year-old cold cases get solved, and I know you're working hard on it. Detective William Springer, come back when you have more information and you make those final connections that you need for this family. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.